You're listening to the Paranormal UK radio network, the best in paranormal talk radio in the UK and around the world.
Eire is the Irish or Gaelic word for Ireland. So take it easy, or as we say in Gaelic, lig the ski, and listen to all things concerning the paranormal in Ireland and indeed beyond. Welcome to Scary Eire.
All views are Mark Manning's own, but you can express them too if you want to be right about everything, like he is.
Mark Manning.
You know, around 2007, what's that, 19 years ago, I heard something on YouTube that I thought was pretty profound, and it stuck with me, and you're about to hear it shortly. Bear in mind, it is 2007, and the guy made it, I think, with Microsoft Movie Maker, so you know you really need to blow the cobwebs off it quality-wise when it comes to the audio. But I'd ask you to just forgive the audio and listen to the message that's in it, because on this podcast, I want to concentrate on, I don't know exactly how to phrase this, but sound, sound waves or brain waves, ways of tapping into the next dimension, whether we were there before or it has always been and we're about to go there again, lulling yourself into that kind of self-awareness or indeed subconscious end of things. I am going to lose some of you. What you were about to listen to is a guy relating how he found himself, I think, in the next dimension. He may describe it as the fourth dimension. And it followed, well, I'll tell you what it followed. It followed when you listen to it, you'll hear the story that inspired the whole thing. Well, it was an attack. He was attacked. Okay? And he found out two things. One, that there was an extra dimension. And all held together by something he'll tell you about. And two, there's pretty not anything to be scared of, folks. When we go, perhaps if we don't mend our ways, we could be our own worst enemy. It's not making much sense, is it? But perhaps this will. Don't listen to it if you're driving, certainly not if you're operating heavy farm machinery. Get the kids out of the room, and if you've got AirPods, pop them in, because this next 10 minutes or so are profound.
Today I'm going to talk to you about life after death. I want to try and explain to you an enlightening out-of-body experience that I've had. Now, as I talk about this experience, it may offend seriously religious people. However, most people are afraid of dying. They do not know what is on the other side. A lot of people are religious, and a lot of people aren't. Now, I'm going to tell you what happened to me when I had this out-of-body experience. I was not ill, on a hospital bed. I actually did it myself, purely by accident. And there is a way of leaving your body yourself. And it is quite easy. But how I found this method was in 1972, when I was running a nightclub, and I had to bar people and made enemies. And I was attacked one evening in town by a group of men that I barred. However, lucky for me, I wasn't hurt seriously, but it shook me up. I was shaking all the way home. I was living in digs at the time, and I used to say my prayers every evening. I used to get into bed, throw the blankets over my head, and it seemed to comfort me, the surround, the darkness and completeness. I started visualizing the lane where this incident took place, where these 5 fellows were involved in attacking me. And I said, I want to be protected from now on. I do not want to be in this situation again, where I'm vulnerable like this. I want to be aware of everything. I want you to watch my back from now on. Wherever I go, I want you to make sure that I'm going to be okay. And I kept repeating this every evening, and kept visualizing the lane where the incident took place, and remembering what happened on that day. 3.5 months later, I'm still doing this every night. I came home roughly about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I got into bed, and I continued my routine, my mantra, my repeated request. And in my mind, while I visualized the lane as normal, I saw a door appear. Not a door as such, but the shape of a door, black, totally black. And it was saying, if you go through this door, you will not be afraid. I entered a black space, and suddenly I felt myself drifting through space. I ended up in the lane where the incident took place. I was floating in a gold and yellow light, a warm gold and yellow light. A wonderful feeling, absolutely wonderful. And my brain had altered beyond comprehension. It was as though my subconscious and my conscious mind and everything else in my mind that wasn't working before is certainly working now. I knew everything. Everything about this world. If anybody asked me a question about this world, I could give them an answer. It was a wonderful feeling. And I realized I was in an area where I couldn't get hurt by anybody. Because it occurred to me that we are living in a 3rd dimensional world. If you look up, that is 1 dimension. If you look down, that is 2 dimensions. And if you look around yourself in a circle, that is 3rd dimensional world that we live in. I was in between the 3rd and the 4th dimension. It was absolutely wonderful, a wonderful feeling. Another strong feeling that came over me was the fact that I loved everybody. People I hadn't met, people I hadn't known, people I didn't like. It didn't make any difference. I loved everybody. It seemed to me as though we're here for a test to see how we manage, see how we get through our life. And an incredible feeling came over me that we were all run and controlled by electric, static electric. everybody was connected to the same system, the static electric system. It was almost like a mobile phone wave. Couldn't get tangled up with anybody else's. But we were all run by electric. The body that I was in, we feed it to make it live by eating and drinking. But what makes you move round was the static electric. The brain firing electric current to the arms, to the muscles, to the legs of the muscles, to make you move around. Without static electric, we were dead. And I was experiencing this incredible knowledge and thinking of God at the time. But this seemed to be a totally different feeling. It was a feeling of far superior being than what we call God. Now, I assume that all the people that introduced their first religion had good intentions and had an enlightening experience, like myself. And the only way they could express those feelings was to say that it was being created by the Almighty God, our Creator. And they started their religions with those intentions of being good, considerate, such as the Ten Commandments. In other words, to cut all that down is to treat other people as you like to be treated. The experience ended very abruptly. I said, "How did I get here?" in my mind. That's all I said. I happened to be the kite and somebody had the string and was pulling me back. I didn't want to go. I wanted more. It was out of my control. I arrived back in my body after 4 minutes. I rang everybody I knew at gone 4 o'clock in the morning, delirious with excitement, thinking of the consequences of what I was doing. Because what I experienced was beyond comprehension. Miracle. Fascinating discovery. And it occurred to me afterwards that those people that initiated their religion, the first people to think and to put that thought through regarding their religion, had good intentions. Now, all those people are dead, and other people have taken over those religions and rewritten all the rules. The Ten Commandments now become thousands of pages. And a lot of these particular rules were written for power. Now, we have to change our way of thinking, because our body is our vehicle. We are in our body to experience what it's like in this world. And we have a challenge, a choice of what we do when we arrive. And it is a challenge to see how we manage in this world, to see how we cope with our problems, our responsibilities, what stress is put upon us. And as long as one treats other people as you like to be treated, that is the only way you will ever get peace of mind and contentment. religion has to be looked at totally differently, because there are more people dying of religion than anything else in the entire world. Murdered, raped, tortured. And if we're not careful, it can be the ruination of mankind, of the human race. Who you are talking to when you go to church, when you pray at home, is your subconscious. That is your God. God is within you, nowhere else. God is your subconscious that records everything you do and everything you see and hear and everything you've done. And when you do pass over to the fourth dimension, you look upon yourself and the things you've done yourself. You're not judged by anybody. When I was out of my body in this experience, this is how it felt, that we answered our own problems. And if we didn't master those problems, we would have to come back and do them again until we got them right. And then we wouldn't have to come back into this third dimensional world. Now, people may question the fact of God. Now, if we logically had a God, an individual person, as God, then why would he let a third of the world die of AIDS and starvation? Those lovely poor people, unfortunately, are in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that is it. They have to find a sanctuary within themselves, because God is within yourself. You are God. Your subconscious is your God. It acts according to how you wish your subconscious to act. And usually it only acts when you are emotionally disturbed. But your subconscious is the messenger also, which relays all your doings to the fourth dimension. So that when you get there, you analyze your behavior, the things you've done, the good things, the bad things. Most of the things you do in this world, in this third dimension world, do not mean anything at all in the fourth dimension whatsoever. So, I hope you've listened and understood what I've said here. Religion has to be looked at seriously again. It is now a power that kills people, not loves people. And no religion will talk about any other religion but their own. It has been going on for century after century, and nobody has questioned it, purely because they have no other answer to it. And people feel satisfied because they've gone to church and they've spoken to God. If that is the case, and you feel nice about doing that and it makes you contented, then that's all very well. And that's nice for you. There are people who go to church and they're very hypocritical in regards to perhaps your neighbour. If your neighbour doesn't go to church and you go to church and you're a horrible person and you haven't changed at all, you think you're better than your neighbour because you go to church and they don't. Totally wrong attitude, totally. You can pray anywhere. At home, outside, anywhere at all. You don't have to go to church. So the only way that I can describe the difference between this third dimensional world and the fourth is to imagine yourself as a caterpillar in this world, just surviving and doing the best you can. And when you die, that caterpillar becomes the butterfly. Thank you.
If you like Scary Eire, get in touch. paranormalireland@protonmail.com. That's the email, paranormalireland@protonmail.com. I love when our regular contributors get in touch with news of what's happening within their paranormal investigation group. One such group is headed up by Matthew Clarke, and it's the Cork Supernatural Society. He's got a new EVP for us. We're about to listen to it and the prelim all about it. For those of you who don't know, EVP stands for Electronic Voice Phenomenon, and it refers to unexplained voices, words or whispers captured on audio recordings. These sounds are typically not audible to the human ear in real time and are often discovered only when playing back the recording. Always representing his home county of Cork in the best light. Take it away, Matthew.
Hi Mark, I'm just getting on to you about a recent EVP that we got. So what I'm going to do is send you on the most recent EVP we got. I'm just going to give you a bit of a background. We were investigating a place called the Old Cork Waterworks Experience. It's nowadays in use as a museum, but it obviously was the old waterworks for the city, located right up by the Cork Asylum. So a very historic part of the city. But kind of our connection to this place goes back about 10 years there. 10-year one of our team. Her mother used to be the cleaning contractor for the museum, and she was in there about, as I said, 10, 11 years ago. Tanya's mother was in there cleaning. She was alone. She'd go in alone at evening time, and one of the nights she was in there anyway, she heard what sounded like running. And she turned around and she saw a small girl go into an empty room. Now her mother went in, Tanya's mother went in after the child. She actually thought that it was a human child that had gone in there, but when she went into the room it was empty. And yeah, she was terrified to go back to the place. So she used to bring Tanya with her after that, whenever she was cleaning in that particular building. Now, this is years before Tanya became part of the Cork Supernatural Society. But I remember when she joined, she was telling us this story. So we'd always wanted to get access to the waterworks. Now, interestingly, and as a team had investigated there, I would say, again, over a decade ago, maybe longer. And apparently they picked up on a young girl that died in a fire. And we were talking to the manager of the museum, the waterworks, a guy called Mervyn.
Get out!
Get out! Get out! And he was able to confirm that a young girl did in fact die in a house. There's a house on the right-hand side as you come in the gates. That a young girl had died in that house in a fire. So potentially she's the young girl that Tanya's mother saw and that this as a group picked up on. Now on our recent investigation, we got an amazing EVP, but it's not actually that of the girl. It sounds like a male voice, and I'll send that on to you so you can play it. It's really a really interesting piece. It's one of our best EVPs in a few years. If you listen to the audio, you'll hear me asking, what is your connection to this site? And the response that we hear is, I'll show you. Now, nothing actually happened afterwards. It was just the EVP that happened and it all went back to being quiet then. But it's really, really clear. And what we find kind of interesting about it, to us the voice sounds like it might have, how would you put it, like a speech impediment. So maybe it was an accident that occurred there. It sounds male to me. A male voice, possibly was a speech impediment. Really interesting. one of our best EVPs in a while. So I'll send that on to you and be interested to hear what you make of it. And if you want to use it for your listeners, then fire away. And just when I'm on to you, Mark, about the waterworks, we did actually get a second potential EVP. Now, this one is not a response to a question like the first one, but it does potentially sound more childlike and potentially like a young girl, which would fit in with Tanya's Mull's experience and the other team's findings. So I'll send you that on as well. It's a very brief EVP at the start of the clip. I'll send it on and you can have a listen. Cheers again.
Okay, so let's hear Matthew in action as he questions the spirit anomaly. Shh, I'm being serious here. Entity, who knows? But you're a fly on the wall now, and here's exactly what happened at the old Cork Waterworks experience.
What is your connection to this site?
Bullseye, Matthew. And now, let's hear from the little girl. I'm sure you'll agree, dear Scary Eire listeners, that is absolutely fascinating stuff. An incredible find. You heard it yourself. Matthew says, what is your connection to this site? And the entity comes straight back with, I'll show you. I like the EVP though, because it is kind of multi-purpose. I mean, you could go into a shop and you say, sorry, where are the toilet rolls? Oh, manager, I'm so sorry. There's absolutely no way I can pay for this lovely meal, this dinner. I tell you what, I'll do some washing up for you in the kitchen to compensate you. Where is it? Or what about that old Jackson's hit from 1979? Let me show you. Now, before I get carried away with levity and my own smartness and tongue-in-cheekness, I want you to know, Matthew, if you are listening to me, and all the listeners of Scary Eire, you probably know in the last 25 episodes, I hold up as the best EVP I've ever heard, the one supplied by PJ Kavanagh from Paranormal Awakenings, where he records the kind of demonic entity down in the Monk's Hole in Cong, County Mayo. However, I want you to know, Matthew Clarke of Cork Supernatural Society, that from time to time, the eeriness of one of many EVPs you were kind enough to supply to me does haunt me. In the wee small hours of the morning, I can hear the voice. You're about to hear it now, listener. You're about to hear, dear listener. I don't know what it is. It seems to be a vocal fragment, an EVP, if you like, electronic voice phenomena, captured off the ether, suspended in time. I don't know what it is, but I find it extremely believable and plausible. You supplied it to me, Matthew Clarke of Cork Supernatural Society. Check out his socials, and I want you to listen to it again. I won't say it's the second best. I feel in some ways it's on a par with PJ Kavanagh's. And as we all know, we're not keeping score anyway here. We're all here to help each other out. Or as Eugene Doran says, we're all on the same path of paranormal. We've just different ways of getting there. I want everybody to listen to this EVP. I don't know whether it stems from the turmoil, terror of the Cromwellian times, or indeed the famine. But the cry is plaintive. It's what about the child? And I want you to listen to it now. Matthew Clarke, thank you.
Yeah, I'm recording again.
Mark Manning.
If you like our Scary Eire podcast, please like and subscribe. Also, if you have any comments or ideas, contact paranormalireland at protonmail.com. Right then, back to the podcast.
You might recall at the start of the podcast that I said we'd have an emphasis this episode on sounds and getting in touch with, I don't know what it is, other dimensions, heaven, different dimensions, different states of being, consciousness, awareness, all that sort of thing. So shortly I'm going to look for maybe 53 seconds or so of your time. Let me tell you what this is about. So there was a guy, you'll have to Google him, Lyall, Lyle Watson, Dr. Lyle Watson. He wrote a book, a bestseller in 1974 called Supernature. It certainly changed my way of looking at life on Earth, or just life full stop. It was an amazing book. So Lyle Watson, Supernature. Now, he took part in a BBC programme. Indeed, he was a former BBC presenter himself on, you might recall, Tomorrow's World, those of you of a certain age. But the programme, of course, is a flagship programme called Desert Island Discs. It started out in 1942 and continues to this day. Dr. Lyle Watson, unfortunately, passed away in the early 2000s. On his Desert Island disc episode, his first choice of music is what you're about to hear. And it's called the Agura Trumpets of the Allure Tribe. I think that's what it's called. So we're talking about a North African tribe somewhere up in north of Uganda. And so what you're about to hear was recorded, I think, in the 50s or 60s. I'd like to think of it as whatever gets you through the night, whatever gets you over the veil, okay? I'm going to go a little bit deep here, but bear with. So there are essentially 4 states of consciousness, and they're labelled beta, which is what you are now, I would hope, although maybe not, which is wide awake. Then there's alpha, and alpha, how do I describe it? It's basically when you're daydreaming, you know, when you're in school and you're about 11 or 12 and there's a big world outside that window with the sun shining down, but there's that window between you and the big world, so you begin to daydream. So alpha is daydreaming. And the next one is theta, which is light sleep. Now, by the way, if you're a creative or you want to solve a problem, the best place to be is in a brainwave state of, these are all brainwaves, by the way, these states of consciousness. Amplitudes, I think they're called. The best place you want to be is alpha theta, so between daydreaming and light sleep. People like Paul McCartney keep a notebook beside their bed, and he's not the first I heard of doing that. Those kind of creative people. Ideas and even problem solving can come to you in an alpha theta state. I don't know whether it's what it is. It's a subconscious working in tandem with the conscious. I don't know. Anyway, where you probably are now is the final stage of brainwaves, which is delta, which is fast asleep. Meanwhile, back on my meandering ranch, we're going to join now the Agura trumpets. All these little trumpets, and there's 40 in all, are made of ivory, and they range from 6 inches to 6 feet in length. So it's African music you're going to hear, but I think it's kind of shamanistic music that'll get you over, particularly if you allow yourself, put your AirPods on, or else just go into a room where it's quiet and let your mind drift with this music, because it originates, I'd say, from thousands, eons ago. These little instruments, very African, very immediate, very repetitive, but there are subtle changes in it. And I think it'll take you to another state. And if not, at the very least, it's some historic document. Just this audio. Is that a contradiction? You know what I'm talking about. 53 seconds of your time, do you think it'll be worth it? Come back and tell me. Here we go. just so I'm factually correct, what you were listening to there was the Agura trumpets of the Allure people of North Uganda. Don't worry, I will be focusing on Ireland itself on our regular feature, which is Random Anonymous Strange But True. Your voices, your paranormal stories, largely Irish-centric. After these short messages.
Hi, Jenny Sullivan here. I am the creator and founder of Emerald Isle Paranormal Researchers. You can find our latest investigation of the beautiful and infamous Redwood Castle. You can find that on our YouTube page and our Facebook page.
Bertie Brosnan here. Recently did the Scary Eire podcast with Mark and I really enjoyed it. Hopefully you can listen to that podcast as well. But I'm a filmmaker, author and video producer for anyone that doesn't know me. You can get all my information, all my links at www.bertiebrosnanfilms.com, including my recent book, The Forgotten Prince, a novella detailing Brian Boru, the Battle of Clontarf, his son Donica and Brodier of Man, the villain of the piece. This is a part of a trilogy and I'm writing the sequel at the moment. You can get it via my shop, www.bertiebrosnanfilms.com, or just go on to Amazon and type in The Forgotten Prince, Bertie Brosnan, and it should come up. Thank you so much. Take care. Enjoy the rest of the show.
This little incident I'm going to tell you about was either a 1 in a million coincidence or there was definitely the hand of the supernatural involved, and I definitely think it was more of the latter and involved my late husband David. So what happened is this. There is a little town about 25 miles away from where I live and it's called Faversham, and there's a lovely shrine there to St. Jude, part of a beautiful church, and Stations of the Cross out in the open, lots of flowers and all of that. A really beautiful place to visit. But in the 25 years or so that I've lived in my area, I've only been there less than a handful of times. But as I said, it was lovely, but I don't really have much reason to go there. Anyway, not long after my husband died in November 24, I got wind of the fact that you could buy memorial bricks to lay in a pathway that they were putting down in the shrine, and I thought that was a lovely idea. So I bought 2 anyway, one for him and one for his brother Kevin, whom I was also very close to. In due course I got an email telling me that the bricks had been done and the inscription, and that was it really. I didn't think too much else about it. I just assumed that they would send me another message telling me when the pathway had been laid. To be honest, I more or less put it out of my head because, I had a lot of other things going on and my mind was busy elsewhere. Anyway, I woke up on Saturday morning and spontaneously decided that I would go to Faversham and also that I would check in at the shrine while I was there, because it came back to me that I hadn't heard anything, so, I might as well check while I was there. Anyway, I did go to the shrine and found the path, and there was, a few hundred names, I suppose, inscribed there in no particular order. So I walked up and down looking at the bricks and couldn't find them anywhere. Called the woman in the office and she assured me that the bricks were done, which is the same as the email that I got, and she came out and she walked up and down alongside of me and she couldn't find anything. So she said she'd go back into the office and check on the computer to make sure that they had actually been done. Anyway, I continued walking up and down, left and right and all over the place, and still couldn't find a trace of them. And then, just as I was standing there, a van drew in, and this guy got out of it at the same time as the woman re-emerged from the office. And she looked at me and pointed to him, and she said, "Do you see him? He's just about to put down the bricks for Kevin and David." Well, you know that old expression, you could have knocked me over with a feather. What were the chances that I would be there at the exact time and day that they were going to lay the bricks for Kevin and David? As I said, I've been to that town less than a handful of times. I had no pre-knowledge that they were going to do that on that day. Far from it. So, what can I tell you? I think it was some sort of intervention, a little nudge from my late husband and his brother to go there. As a little footnote, my son decided that I must be psychic and said, "Mom, you have to do the lottery this weekend." Maybe I should have. But anyway, that little experience made me feel like I had won the lottery. In fact, the woman at the shrine said to me, "Now there's a sign, if ever there was one, that someone is looking after you on the other side." And you know what? I like to think she was right.
We were visiting family in another county and left later than expected to travel home. It was dark and we had the kids asleep in the back of the car. We were well used to travelling the road we were on, and we were chatting away about family and the day we had. The road was quiet with little to no traffic. We were going along at a steady pace within the speed limit when suddenly out of nowhere there was a guy standing in the middle of the road on our side, dressed in biking gear and wearing a helmet and a yellow top and black cycling shorts. He had a bike between his legs but had both feet down on the road. His bike was sideways, as were his legs, but his upper body was turned towards us. He looked completely shocked and raised his arms up in front of his face as we were almost on top of him. My other half, at seeing this guy just appear, loudly said, "What the f?" I shouted, "We're going to hit him." My other half slammed on the brakes and we screeched to a halt. I checked the kids who were still snoring after their long day and we quickly pulled over onto the hard shoulder. We actually thought we ran the guy over, but there was no bump and we didn't feel like we had hit anyone. My other half looked out the window and the guy on the bike was nowhere to be seen. I said reverse and put on the full lights so we can really have a good look. Hands shaking, we both got out and looked around. There was no sign of the guy on the bike. We called out and looked around thoroughly. Nothing. My other half stood at the side of the road and chain smoked for about 15 minutes. She was that shaken. We moved off eventually, but to say we were shook is an understatement. I'll never forget the look of horror on that poor man's face before he raised his hands up in front of him. It happened in seconds. The realization on his face, then the look of sheer terror. It's something that'll never leave me. It's something myself and my other half still talk about to this day when someone mentions seeing something otherworldly. We still have no explanation as to what happened. If there was a car behind us, it would have slammed into us. We braked so suddenly. I have no answers and no idea why what happened. We did consider calling the police, but how would we explain it? There was a guy in the middle of the road, we didn't hit him, and he vanished into thin air. What would they say? How would it look? If anyone else had a similar experience, I'd be very interested in hearing about it.
The kids where I grew up used to talk about the Click-Clack Man, an old guy whose legs had been chopped off, so he grew his fingernails extremely long and walked around using them, looking for children to murder. I actually think there was more in-depth lore to this fella, but I don't remember. But what I do remember was lying in bed, terrified he was coming for my legs, because I'd be in the dark, I'd be hearing a click-clack, click-clack. In hindsight, it was most definitely a zipper or something clacking around in the washing machine, but I was so sure it was real. Really anxious times. Unrelated, but this is a real story. When I was about 15, I was sitting on my bed reading something in the middle of the day when I saw something out of the corner of my eye. I looked over at the doorframe and there was a shadow figure of a tall man in a trench coat wearing a fedora. The second I saw this thing, it fell through the floor. Now, I'm not a believer in the paranormal stuff, so I assumed it was something I had imagined, and I just never really thought about it. But thanks to the internet, I recently found out tons of people have had this exact experience. It's called the Hat Man. It's terrifying because they have drawn pictures of what he looked like, and it is exactly what I saw.
Around 1972, during my first year at technical school, I got myself a little part-time job as a delivery boy for a local pharmacy. After being there for some few months, I was sent out on a delivery to our local college, University College Galway, at the time UCG as it was known. I was nearing school summer holidays, and I'm sure every other kid was really looking forward to the long summer school break. Anyway, as I approached the entrance to the college, I indicated my intention to make a right-hand turn off the main road into the college. I never made it. Before I knew it, I was sailing through the air in what seemed to me anyway, very, very slow motion, then landing on the ground in complete and utter silence. No plop, no screaming, nothing at all. My bicycle had been rear-ended, and as I was about to find out later, as I lay on the ground, a car driving on the opposite side of the road also ran over my right leg, making a complete hames of my ankle and shin bone. I never felt a thing until much later. Down to shock, I suppose. Anyway, long story short, I ended up going to the surgery later on that night. At some point during the surgery, I saw one of the people there putting a mask of sorts over my face. It had a tube leading to a ball on it, which he was squeezing at a slow, steady rhythm for what seemed like ages. I could see both of them trying to resuscitate me. I saw no bright light, no angels, no lovely stream, no one telling me to go back, it's not my time. I just saw what was happening, as it was happening. And a few hours later I woke up, back on the ward, and all was good. A couple of monitors on me, that was about it. A nurse came to me the next morning to remove them. She said I had an accident yesterday evening. I told her I knew that, but I wanted to know what happened in theatre. She told me nothing happened. Everything went well and you're going to be fine. She knew that something strange happened, but she wouldn't let on. The doctor will be around to see you later. He called on me a couple of hours later and I asked him the same question. He came out with a response similar to the nurse. I told him exactly what had happened, even down to the colours on the tube and the ball. He turned a little pale and told me straight I must have a guardian angel because he'd nearly lost me on the table. I had had a reaction to the anaesthetic. I rarely ever speak of that incident for obvious reasons, and I'm sure that doctor never did either.
There's an old famine road near me called the Port Road because thousands used to use it to get the boat out of Ireland during the famine, and there's hundreds buried along it in mass graves. Myself and my friend were walking it one night to mass, as we were all the boys back then, and we were sure we seen a gang of people coming towards us dressed in 19th century clothing. We even called out to them, but then when we got to where they should have been, there was nothing. Everyone in the parish says it's haunted and nobody will build along the road. The place just feels off. It's like it's cold and it's as if the sun doesn't shine there.
Well, she certainly is a fine-looking woman. Are men allowed to make favourable comments on a woman's appearance anymore, or is that taboo? We'll be talking about taboo shortly. The lady I was referring to, incidentally, is an English composer called Jocelyn Pook. There's a name to conjure with. And it's of all things pooky and spooky that we're going to spend the next minute or two talking about. You know, there are societies, Illuminati, secret societies, families going back hundreds and thousands of years, and their influence is often immense, but their actual visibility is somewhere deep, deep, deep in the shadows. I'm going to refer now to a movie called Eyes Wide Shut. I think it was somewhere around the early 90s, but don't quote me on that. It starred Tom Cruise. And I don't know if they were married at the time. Nicole Kidman, another fine-looking woman.
If you don't mind me saying so.
I do. And it was all about this guy called Dr. Harford. This is very much a thumbnail sketch, but at some point anyway, between the jigs and the reels, he gets enmeshed into a secret society. And he turns up at this big mansion. He's been invited for, I think, an initiation ceremony. And as he enters, almost like a gentleman's club feel about the place, he's met by a guy in a mask. And subsequently, everybody, I think the scene is called the Masked Ball scene, if you want to check it out. Subsequently, everybody else present in this, there's an area off the entrance, almost like a kind of ballroom. They're all cloaked and masked as well. And the doorman greets a slightly apprehensive Tom Cruise, presents him with a mask which he must wear throughout the ceremony, and a cloak as well. And as he enters this assembly area, this ballroom, ornate, probably with sacred symbols somewhere within the framework of the whole place, but it's there. Center, slap bang, is a guy in a red robe, which turns out to be some kind of a high priest, if you like. And he's there, again with a mask. And he's surrounded by all these people in, you know, the Venetian masks? Venice is one of my favourite places in the world, and I'm always fascinated by those masks. Is it mask or mask? Who knows? He's surrounded, there's a circle of, you can tell by their form, nubile. I think young ladies, Anyway, I'm not going to do a complete spoiler for you. He's surrounded, and they're all in black cloaks. He is in the centre, and he's holding like an incense thing, like a Catholic priest would hold, and it's swinging. And he's got this staff, this long rod, which every so often he'll ceremoniously, almost like Black Rod in Parliament in the UK, he'll tap off the ground. And correspondingly, the minions, if you like, surrounding him, respond with various movements. Dr. Harford, played by Tom Cruise, infiltrates this clandestine masked ball with the ominous priest present conducting a very bizarre ritual. Now here's where Jocelyn Pook, aforementioned, comes into the equation. She achieved the scene's unsettling, sacrilegious mood by playing, wait for it, reversed Romanian Orthodox chants. Hearing Holy Liturgy sung backwards naturally distorts the audio, and remember, this program today, Scary Eire, is pretty audio-centric, creating auditory uncanny valley. This intentional inversion of the religious symbolism triggers an eerie, unnatural dread, making the ritual feel deeply cursed and deeply occult. Let's listen to Jocelyn Pook's genius. Yikes, I don't know about you, but I have pooped my pants. Or should I say pooped my pants? Anyway, let's listen to this as it should have been recorded, i.e. we're going to reverse the tape. to as it was before Jocelyn reversed it for such a dramatic effect. Let's listen to it in its organic state. Oh, that's so much better, don't you think?
Mark Manning.
If you like our Scary Eire podcast, please like and subscribe. Also, if you have any comments or ideas, contact Paranormal Ireland at protonmail.com. Right then, back to the podcast.
Hello, Scary Eire listeners. My name is Anthony Kerrigan, and I'm a member of a paranormal psychical research team called Ghost Eire. You can catch up on where we have been, also see what we've got up in the future by logging in to our website, www.ghosteire.net. You can also watch shows of the Ghost Eire channel, where we interview numerous people in the field of the paranormal and Fortina. You can also check us on our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube by just typing in Ghost Eire or Ghost Eire Paranormal. You can also watch our new show, Phantasm Collective, on channels such as Prime UK and also Paraflix and other streaming services to be announced. I just got to deal with this ghost now. Get out!
Get out!
I think the problem with these days is we're no longer left to our imagination. I'd like you to carefully listen to these lyrics. Then we'll have a quick chat afterwards.
Atmospherics after dark, noise and voices from the past, across the dial from Moscow to Cologne. Interference in the night, 1,000 miles on either side, stations fading into the unknown.
What amazing lyrics. That was Atmospherics by Tom Robinson, who wrote it. He was a pop star around the late 70s, early 80s, and subsequently became a great broadcaster on BBC as well. And he was very much at the forefront of the gay movement in the late 70s. And I think in the end, he went straight and he married. He married a lady, so there you go. We should be allowed a choice to chop and change, should we not? That's the variety of life. Oh, fun fact as well, it was co-written by Peter Gabriel, a pop star in his own right, and of course he had a life in Genesis way back. And when I listened to that song, Atmospherics After Dark, sounds fading into the unknown. It was back in those like 60s and 70s days and perhaps 50s beforehand when you'd have a little transistor radio, certainly in the 60s. It was a glorious time, but there was a dearth of choice when it came to pop music, certainly in Ireland and England, and I'd imagine most of Europe as well. There was one station that was like a beacon. It was called Radio Luxembourg. It had actually dated from the 30s, but back in the 60s or so it had become a big pop station, so it would play a lot of exotic sounding American music, and they had upbeat DJs, and it was a different world, but it wasn't always regular, the signal, so late at night you'd get it coming in over the airwaves, fading in and fading out. But as well as that, if you did decide to traverse the band yourself, like be it low wave, short wave, medium wave, whatever, there was a world out there that seemed to just glide in and out of each other. Stations you'd get a fix on and then they'd be gone, and there was a squelchy noise and atmospherics after dark. And it was amazing because the world seemed a lot bigger than it is now, and it let your imagination run riot as to what else was out there, the possibilities, mysterious noises, accents, languages. Just a beautiful melange of imagination. And of course, these days it's all condensed now, isn't it, into a little screen. But I better stop myself before I go off on one. The radio and the possibilities that it entertained in a youthful mind it was boundless, folks. So let's have a listen as to what traversing the band kind of sounded like when we did that sort of thing.
In overtime. Really? Options on it. There, on your PC.
Double my speed. Stop playing with that radio of yours. I'm trying to get to sleep.
Yeah, a couple of things over the years, but I've learned. Well, I suppose it's not learned. I've just become accustomed to it, and I think it's kind of, it's maybe another sense or something. But often when you go into places, you'll get a feeling for the place, and you'll get a feeling of whether or not it's comfortable. And whatever causes that, who knows what causes that, but we have an intuition, we have an inbuilt intuition. I can't describe what it is or where it comes from or the physics of it or the chemistry of it, but it's there, and anybody will tell you to stick with your intuition. If you think something doesn't feel right, then don't hang around.
Superb advice from regular contributor to Scary Eire, David McGlynn, aka The Squire. And don't hang around either. If you've got an Irish paranormal tale to tell, simply email paranormalireland@protonmail.com and it'll be read out for you. Or you get to tell it on air yourself. That's paranormalireland@protonmail.com.
Now, from time to time, I get a lovely compliment insofar as the investigators from the various Irish and English paranormal teams will send me footage, often at odd hours, you know. They've come across an EVP or they've got an orb on camera, whatever it may be. And this gentleman, who has been on the show recently, PJ Kavanagh of Paranormal Awakenings, recently underwent, well, it was a bit of an experience really, wasn't it, PJ? Because you were out investigating Redwood Castle.
I was on Friday night just gone, the 26th.
Redwood Castle. Where is it? What's its history? How does it feel to be in the surrounds?
Well, it's a castle and it's in a townland or a village called Clarke in County Tipperary. Not all that far from Galway, actually. When you say Tipperary, people start getting visions of hundreds of miles away. It's actually less than 50 miles from Galway.
Right.
So it wasn't that much of a journey for us.
What does it look like?
It's not a massively big castle, but it is bigger than your average tower house. It is much, much wider and much, much longer. And it's a 3-story with battlements up on the top, which are accessible. Not all that easy, but they are accessible. So you get some lovely shots from the roof of the place during the daylight hours. You can see for miles around there. It's lovely country, lovely country.
And of course, all that wonderful evidence and pictorial or otherwise is available on your social media. Yeah, have you got a website there or a Facebook?
Just have my Facebook and the TikTok, Instagram. I will be setting up a website at some stage. If I can manage to keep going now, Mark, because I'm getting a bit long on the tooth for this racket. I've gone 67 now almost, and I want to be thinking about getting a nice soft office job for myself rather than be at this lark climbing steps of stairs at all hours of the night.
The footage I saw from within your very recent investigation of Redwood Castle was you were actually having a sleep at the time, and I know you weren't that impressed by it, but I saw this amazing orb activity. I thought it was, and you said to me, Mark, you think they're orbs? You want to see? So apparently there's even bigger ones. What I noticed about them was they were almost moving with intent. Normally orbs can be a little bit here and there and, you know, ping-ponging around. They seem to almost be observing you or something. I might be a bit grandiose, but it looked to me that they had an intelligence about them.
They do. A genuine orb is an intelligent entity of one sort or another. The trouble is, it is very, very hard to distinguish between an orb and dust. But I have no problem telling one from the other because I've seen them all the time. It's actually getting to a stage now where I can see them with the naked eye, whereas you won't see dust with the naked eye unless you're in a dark room and bright sunlight coming through a window. You'll often see dust that way. But on the camera, it's a regular thing, especially on night vision. But the dust will always seem to be a little bit darker, and it's just dizzy, going here, going there, with no real intent. Whereas an orb, some of them can be very, very bright, very, very fast, and I mean rapid fast now. And you can see that they are moving with intent, either coming from one surface, going up in the air, going back down, heading over to a surface or a person.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that there's deliberate intent there.
Yes.
And a pure brilliance compared to the dust. But you have warriors out there then that will say, it's all dust, man, it's just pure dust. And
no, it's not.
That's why I really don't like to go down that route anymore. It causes more trouble than it's worth for me, really. But if I get an exceptional one, I'll take the gamble mark and I will put it up.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, when it comes to Discord, and I don't want to go off down a dark, winding labyrinth, but look, I came to this with one paranormal experience that kind of has lasted me a lifetime, and I came to put the podcast together in around August, September of 2024. So I'm going on 2 years at it now, right? And so therefore I have a kind of panoramic view of it. You guys are in it. You're living it. You're breathing it for decades. Yourself and the likes of PJ down in Book of Oak or Jenny, you're at it for years. And indeed Matthew Clarke as well, who's always very good at supplying information. So I'm looking at this, but I am aware of some disharmony, and bitching, quite frankly, within paranormal organisations. Maybe just a quick observation on that, if you have any.
Well, it's sad, but it's true. I don't know why, but there seems to be a lot of aggro going on between different groups now at the moment, and it's more about the evidence that they get. This group saying we've got some brilliant evidence. You have another group then saying it's rubbish. It's, for want of a better word, and if I can say the word, it's shite. Shite. And how dare you be putting up such a trap on the Facebook or whatever format you're putting her up on. Instead of pulling together, they start pulling against each other. Now, not everybody, but there are a few. And there's a few that's actually known for it.
Yeah, well, I have to say I've noticed that. There's a little micro amount, but they're quite they're quite vocal. It's almost like they kind of pollute an otherwise really positive and great communal endeavour on behalf of the paranormal in Ireland.
They take the good out of it for everybody, that's what happens.
Yeah.
I'd like to say to them, if they're not happy with what the likes of me and others are putting up, why don't they go and put up something that they're satisfied with and see what we think?
Well said, PJ. Anywho, moving swiftly on. PJ, meanwhile back in Redwood Castle. So I saw a picture of you and you seemed to be asleep in there, and then there was an almighty resounding... What was going on there at noise?
We're still trying to work on that one, Mark, because we have no proper or full explanation for it yet. Now, we were with another crew. We were actually their guests. They're a girl team, an all-girl team, OGS. They invited us down there along with another 3 or 4 of their friends. But they were in different parts of the castle. Some of them were up the top, and 1 or 2 of them were actually out in their car because... sleeping accommodation there is not the best. I brought a camp bed, so I was lucky. Poor Phil had to set up a bed on the floor for himself. He was out of sight of the camera. He was way down under an alcove where most of the noise emanated from. It was nearer to him than it was to me. But I have very sensitive equipment that will pick up a fly walk on the wall, Yeah. And it seems to have come from a door that closes the room that me and Phil were in. The doorway leads to an upstairs where the other people were, but we had closed the door before we went to sleep because there's awful drafts in the castle and we were afraid that the door could be swinging or banging or closing or keeping us awake during the night, whatever. But Phil closed it anyway before lights out. Shortly after, I settled down and I was surprised at myself. I actually went to sleep quite happily. After we were convinced that there was an entity in the corner of the room where I was sleeping, and I deliberately decided and told the guys that we were with that that's my spot, that's where I'm sleeping. I want to see if this guy has anything to say to me later on in the night, because apparently he was trying to make contact with us during the day while we were doing a bit of filming there. There was a couple of ladies there that did not seances, but they did EVP sessions trying to talk to this guy. There was another lady there. She was using her rods. Some people divine water with them, other people divine spirits with them, trying to make contact with him. But he wasn't very forthcoming. And yet we all knew he was there. We could feel his presence. We knew he was there. And we knew he wasn't just an ordinary spirit. He was an entity from some other time gone by. And I don't believe he was ever human. We think he was either demonic or a very mischievous type of spirit. I just decided I'm going to sleep here tonight, and if he's anything to say, let him come and say it. But,
but you were in the land of Nod.
Anyway, Mark. It didn't happen. I went to sleep.
Yeah.
Poor Phil was asleep, but before that crash that you hear now, there was some other rustling and bustling type noises going on, and that's what woke Phil initially. So he was awake maybe a few seconds before the big bang, as we call it.
So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, what you are about to hear now is that big bang. And if you listen carefully beforehand, there is a preliminary noise, which, as PJ said, initially probably woke Phil. You'll hear, after the big crash, you'll hear Phil say P, and he's referring to PJ. It's a short name for PJ. And we'll play it a couple of times just so you can listen in on it.
Hey. Jesus. Jesus. Jesus.
And you've just heard an anomaly there, recorded on the night of the 26th of June, just gone, by our good friend PJ Kavanagh from Paranormal Awakenings Ireland. Anyway, PJ continues as to the reaction that his colleague Philip had. And we'll continue on the story here.
And the poor creator, he'd offer trouble going back to sleep after that. As for me, I didn't even hear it. I was gone with the berries, you know. If I was anybody else, if anybody else had fell asleep on the job like I did, I would have sacked them right then and there.
Yeah.
But because it was me, like, you know, sure, it's allowed.
Of course it is. I mean, you're nearly 67 now, isn't that right? So you mentioned a cute sight, the fact that you can now possibly see orbs with the human eye. And we have to say, for those who don't know, that this was part investigation, but almost nearly a part pilgrimage for you, because we lost PJ Doog, fellow namesake of yours.
That's correct. That's correct.
And he last year we lost him in October, I think it was. He'd been on our podcast as well. I know you two were kind of paranormal brothers. So his hearing, you used to remark on, was hugely acute. He could hear things, and you know, that other people couldn't hear. So it's nice that you're kind of, you know, okay, you're in different realms now, but you're balancing each other out. He had a lot to say about Redwood Castle, didn't he?
He had indeed. He recorded a door that opened on its own, and you could see on the video clip that he's going around the room, checking all the cameras are running, working, operating, and that there's nothing untoward going on in the room. You can see him walk out the door and close the door behind him, and actually physically hear him lock the door. You can hear it, the locks turning on the door. Loud banging, clicking sound, because they're very heavy doors, oak, I think they are. And after some while, you can see the door, the same door that was physically locked, opens, but only partially now, maybe 12, 18 inches. It doesn't open all the way. Now, that's just one thing that happened.
Yeah. Can that footage, sorry to cut across you, can that footage still be viewed anywhere? Are you aware of?
Yeah, oh yes, I have that footage. I actually have it. He sent it to me. He sent it to me before he died, Lord of Mercy and the Poor Man. He did, yes.
Yes.
He was constantly asking me to go and do this Redwood Castle with him.
Yes.
And for one reason or another, I couldn't get going when it was suiting him. But eventually we set up a date that we would do it. And poor PJ never made it. Poor PJ passed away. So I really went to Redwood this weekend as a tribute to PJ, because I really wanted to go with him and I couldn't.
He was with you in
that I was
spirit.
there, he might be there in spirit. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
He was, yeah.
But he also got this EVP of a female. I don't know, young or old or whatever. But in this EVP, and it's a very poor quality one now, but as we say, he had exceptional hearing.
Mm-hmm.
It says TJ is hurting, and it's teasing and taunting. It's doing it like in a nursery rhyme type of a...
Yes, eerie.
Yeah. Way. Yes. And he was not long after having COVID, and this was around March last year to 2025.
Yes.
It says PJ is hurting. That's what the EVP says. PJ is hurting. He was in recovery from COVID at the time.
Yes, so he must have had long COVID at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he thought that she was referring to the fact that he had COVID and was in recovery. In hindsight, looking back now, and I'm sure if I could speak to PJ, he might agree with me, I think he just got it wrong.
Yeah.
I think the spirit was actually telling PJ that he was ill and very ill.
Yes.
Only PJ didn't realise it. But I can't prove that as of yet. So I may go back there on another occasion and try and see can I get an answer to that.
Well, when you do go back, I think you've got some new toys now, don't you? Paranormal toys. What are you using equipment-wise?
It's mainly all night vision cameras, body cams, and static cameras. I brought some electronic music boxes with me, and they have sensors built into them. These only activate if something stands in front of them or moves across them. They have sensors much the same as security cameras have, for instance.
Yes.
Alarms, if you like.
Motion detector.
They are actually they are actually an alarm, but it's music, not just piercing, screeching noise that comes out of them. Pleasant music. I had been downstairs with the crew doing a bit of EVP sessions and different little things going on, and that went on for about an hour, maybe, I'd say. Myself and Philip decided we'd go outside and have a smoke before we go upstairs again and go checking out our stuff. After we came back in, the ladies from OGS were telling me that these things were constantly going off upstairs, and there was no reason for that because there was no one up there. This is the same room. I didn't know it then, but I know it now. This is the same room that PJ had his experiences in, the EVP, and the door closing. Yeah. And I had it in my head, and I didn't know why, that it wasn't that floor, it was the one above it.
Okay.
But it turned out to be actually the room where I'm sleeping. And I didn't know that until I came home, checked my footage, and looked back at some of PJ's, and I said, what kind of an idiot are you? This is the room that you should have cameras up, inside doors, outside doors, everywhere. Now, I got stuff, but I could have got a lot more had I known that I was in the room where all this stuff happened. I would have covered every angle of the room, inside and outside. But hindsight's a great thing.
Yeah. Was that Philip Costello you were talking about?
Philip Costello, yeah.
Tell him I was asking for him. We had him on he was on before you were on, actually, way back.
That's correct, yeah. Some few months before me, actually, yeah.
He got kind of possessed at one point, or seemed to be taken over by an entity. Where was that again?
That was in Tyrone House in Kilcolgan, County Galway. Yeah. I'm laughing because he had a similar experience on Friday night.
Oh my God, did he? Did you get it on camera?
Yes, I did. He also got a terribly high temperature. He was burning up and soaked, absolutely drenched into the skin in sweat. What he was doing, he was on a spirit box.
Sorry, that's something you can't fake either, you know?
No, this happened now all in an instant. The girls' OGS team had a spirit box with them, and you'll know them as a PSB7. It's just a radio type thing that just gets a word from one station, and now it's all garbled, and it doesn't make sense to you unless you're using it at the time and you're asking particular questions, and it's firing out random bits of stations coming in, whatever. So you have to try and make sense of it yourself, whatever way you can.
I'm not a fan of those. Just between you and I, me speaking.
Nor me.
I'll tell you why I'm not a fan of them. Right, so I voice over for a living, pretty much, and occasionally I would get scripts in garble.
Right.
Yeah. So Basically, I'm told to, say all this kind of total random nonsense. Now, these days, they can nick your voice for AI and stuff. Look, there's nothing pretty much you can do about that. You just can't. So there's some of those guys out there. But I'd say other things end up in spirit boxes, right? So it'll go Joe Blogs, or it'll go... massive velvet curtain or something, or someone died, committed suicide, and then everyone goes, "Wow, it's someone. What was that about a suicide? Did somebody die in here?" Blah blah. I think it's nonsense. Unless I'd love to be contradicted as to the logic of these things, but having been involved, they're known as prompts. They give you a script of prompts. And that's where you go. But anyway, I digress. And it's good to know that Philip's okay as well. Listen, do you have some kind of a new heat-seeking camera as well, or infrared, or what am I talking about?
No, they're thermal imaging cameras. Okay. They're not new. No? They're not new. It's just that up till recently they were awfully expensive. Now you can buy a very, very good one for a couple of $100, a couple of €100. Yeah. But in a few years back, you were talking hundreds, if not thousands, for a reliable one. Yeah. But the technology now, it's like when the flat TVs came out. Yes. You couldn't buy one. Now you can buy them for the price of a pair of curtains. It's
Absolutely. I was looking for a monitor during the week for broadcast software, playout software it's known as, and I couldn't believe how cheap, 15 point something or 20-inch monitors now. Yeah. It's incredible. I used to sell them way back in the 90s. Yeah. And you were back then you were talking at the cheapest model be £400 or £500 kind of thing. But anyway, that's good. So you're using that. You're a big fan of the body cam as well, aren't you?
I love the body cam. Yeah. It's my third eye. Yeah. And it's a great device for picking up sounds.
Can I hold you? Can I hold you on that? Yeah. Well, first of all, we have to say that probably the most replayed EVP, indeed it features in this episode again, is your demon in the Monk's Hole in Kong. By the way, there's a good one in from Matthew Clarke. Now, I had played it before, but I revisited it, and it is on this podcast. It's really eerie. I get visions of post-massacre in a Cromwellian era or the famine or something. It's up.
You must send that on to me. I'm not aware of it.
It's up on this show anyway, if you listen to it. Okay. It's up on this show. Again, so the EVP is What About the Child? Listen carefully. The body cam as well, you're into that. You're certainly all tooled up to do the job. How's things going in Paranormal Awakenings?
I haven't been out much now. Friday night was my first outing in a while. I have another one coming up shortly now. I'm doing a public event on the Isle of Inchigale on Lough Corban, County Galway next month.
That was postponed at one point, wasn't it?
I had to postpone it, but I am back at it now again for July next. It's only a few weeks away, really. And it's free. Anybody that wants to come can, but only up to a maximum of 20 people. Okay. And they will be getting a boat in Lislochry right beside Conn Castle.
Okay. Sounds good.
And it's around €30 return, and to spend the night on the island, and they're going to have a night like they've never had before.
Absolutely, sure. €30 hardly a king's ransom, is it now? Yeah, they're not going to lose their shirt on that. What can they? What kind of?
That's not even for me. That's for the boatmen.
I know.
I get nothing. All I want is a few people to come out and experience for themselves. Yeah. I was doing this when I was with a farmer group, and I was getting serious money because I was charging them event money, and I was feeding them and putting them up. There's none of that this time. Okay. They feed themselves. Yeah. They just come out for the experience.
Money isn't a dirty word. I haven't got a problem. I'm a capitalist at heart. I was in sales for years, and I can tell you, provided you're giving value for money, I don't have a problem. People expect to pay for something decent. That anyone can have a go and just say we're putting on a show, and by the way, I make no money. You can factor that into the equation so that it becomes a win-win for all. And on that happy note, PJ, I'm glad you seem to be going from success to success. You have a reputation out there as you're so experienced, you're no nonsense, you're refreshing. Every time I hear from you, you're on the money when it comes to give me a proper explanation of this and that. You're never woolly about it. I bounce all over the place myself. And so thanks again for your time.
And thank you, Mark.
Okay, PJ, take care.
If you like our Scary Eire podcast, please like and subscribe. Also, if you have any comments or ideas, contact paranormalireland at protonmail.com. Right then, back to the podcast.
Hi, it's PJ here from Pucavogue Paranormal. We've just completed our latest investigation in Redwood Castle. Our next 2 upcoming investigations will be Redwood Castle and Redwood Castle The Return. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. And of course, our team is Pucavogue Paranormal.
Okay, just a little note to you guys. When I record this show, it's usually over a period of days or weeks. Contributions and interviews get carried out, over the guts of a month. And you just heard PJ Kavanagh. Now, I was literally about to just edit this latest episode and finalise it. And as I said earlier, I get supplied with information, and PJ was reviewing some of the recordings and footage he got from his recent stay in Redwood Castle. You did hear the noise earlier. Wait till you hear this. It appears to be chanting, male voices chanting, almost like monk-like fashion. I have no idea what it is. PJ has no idea what it is. But I just know in my guts, cynics or not, this isn't contrived. Give it a listen. Do sleep well now, won't you? This programme is produced in association with Paranormal UK radio station network, as well as unexplained.ie. I'd like to thank our readers as well today on the Random Anonymous Strange But True section, and they are author based in Kent in the UK, Tara Moore, but originally from County Kildare in Ireland. Followed up by David McGlynn up in County Meath. He's a businessman, an antiques expert, and indeed an antique furniture restorer, as well as a novice author. And then, of course, we got the good old reliable herself from Rostrevor, Northern Ireland, Sarah Campbell, reading away about the clack person, I think it was. Thanks so much to you, Sarah. Sarah, of course, is a radio host as well as a voiceover of a lot of renown, and she's also an event host. So thank you. And of course, where would we be without Eugene Doran, our favourite Dubliner himself, who put his vocal cords to great use. Now then, won't you take care? 'Cause I care. I'm Mark Manning. Somebody has to be. See you on the next Scary Eire down the road.